mother one time. It's the family bloodline.
Hey, what's good, good people? Welcome in, family. Welcome in, family. Welcome in, family. It is good to be back on. Good to be here. And good to be seen. I had to almost forgot I had my speakers up. I was hearing a double in the background. Didn't like it. But we're getting ready to get started. We're getting set up. I'm waiting for my co-host to come join me. He should be here shortly, and I think he might be bringing a guest tonight, which could be super cool to have somebody else on and listening while we're doing our thing. And also, just as a reminder, all voices are welcome. My man, you're done. What's going on, bruh? What is going on? Hey, I'll be I don't know if y'all gonna be at home this weekend, but I'll be in St. Louis. I'll be in St. Louis, so as soon as I show up, I'll give you a call. I will give you a call. I got a family reunion going on, so you know what that entails. Ha ha ha. But yeah, so I'll be at home. Oh, y'all gonna be in Cincy? Golly, I was in Cincy last weekend. Man, man, I hate we missed each other. Yeah, it's gonna be a blast, bro. It's gonna be an absolute blast. But you know, I'm only 3 hours and some change away from the house, so I'll still be there. I will still be there, and I'll let y'all know when I'm heading that way. So yeah, I think my body's trying to get sick, and I refuse. Yes, you do. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I gotta go hit up Buffalo Trace because there's a bottle that I want to grab, and as soon as I get it, I'm heading your way. I am heading your way. I'll send you some pictures. We had a bourbon tasting, me and some of my other battles out here, and man, I had some bourbons that were absolutely phenomenal. Golly, crazy. Okay. All right, yeah. I'll let me you gonna pin on the 5th? I gotta check and see if I can make it out there, man. Golly. I think my team we have another event up in Indy that weekend. But I'll double check. I know my lady will be here with me. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. Man, ah, that timing. That timing. Yeah, for sure. Curtis should be on here in a little bit. I'm gonna use that man whole Christian name. But he should be hopping on fairly soon here. So I'll let him know also. Yeah. I did him that way. I did not mean to. I did not mean to at all. But Deuce will be on in a little bit. Kind of waiting for him to hop on. He put me to task to try and open something. Mr. Right, Mr. Mac and Cheese. We still waiting. We're still waiting. It's gonna happen one of these days. It better happen. So, but yeah, I'm still waiting for him to hop on. I've been trying to open a slide deck that he made. I know, right? I'll wait because my goodness, Brother Jones, welcome in. I just ain't gonna hold my breath while I wait because I don't want to die. He's he didn't had that set up for failure for a while now. For a while. So gotta get him on that. Gotta get him on that. But yeah, I'll start reading as soon as he hops in. Last place I left off at was 10 years later. He just popped in too. We
Yo,
were
can you hear us?
absolutely I can. Absolutely
I
I
don't want to
can.
talk so loud. I just yelled into the mic like that.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good. It's good. I was talking to. There's an echo. Give me 1 second. Let me try and fix that.
I'm sorry, man. It's probably this Family Dollar mic I got.
Oh, not the Family Dollar mic.
I shouldn't hate a Family Dollar like that. Dollar Tree mic. Family Dollars is, that's my store, man.
Right. Give me 1 second.
Turn this light on. That's better.
I will have to figure out why there's an echo on his end. I don't hear it on my end. I don't hear it on my end at all.
They're saying there's an echo though?
It was on my end. I was trying to fix it. I was trying to figure out how to fix it. Chris was telling me that he couldn't hear it. So Chris is going to be pinning on the 5th.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll fly out there just to punch him in the chest. Like that will be like my livelihood. Like that's my goal, just to punch him in the chest. I would love nothing more on earth than to punch Chris.
Man, that's crazy.
I know. Now Chris, my boy, I'm happy for him.
Let me check something because he's not able to hear me on his end. Now, hopefully I fixed that.
All right.
Should have fixed it. I should have fixed it. I might have to. Yeah, he can. He can hear me now. He just called it gibberish what you said. Yeah, they can hear me. They can hear us now. They can hear us. So we have a guest.
We do have a guest.
Yeah, let's introduce our guest.
You wanna you go like with name and then I don't know if you want to add your social or like anything. Okay,
no, on my Instagram? Yes. What do you mean?
I mean, you can stay if you want to.
My social security.
No, not that. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's people out there will love your social, mother's maiden name and birthday, right? But social, just like your social media, if you want to, what you want to be referred to on here.
Okay. So my name is Ashley. My Instagram is Ash the Alchemist. One word. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. What else? That's it. I'm no Aries.
So say that one more time. And that you gotta give yourself big ups when you be like, hey, let me tell you who I am. My name is.
Okay, so let's do this again. So my name is Ashley. My Instagram is Ash the Alchemist. You can also find me on TikTok and Twitter and Threads. Outside of my day job, my corporate job, I'm a creative director and I have a creative marketing agency. Mm-hmm. That's me.
I dig it. Well, we'd like to give you rounds of applause and welcome you to the Family Bloodline Podcast for the first time, and hopefully it won't be the last. Again, I'm Jay Glass. The Movement is the full moniker, but just call me G Glass. That's what I generally go by. So I have a question for you before we hop into it. Well, I got two questions. The first question is, how has y'all's day been? Y'all been busy or?
Well, I'm moving from the bachelor pad to a 2-bedroom when I had my son move up here. So it's been busy, man. I've been organizing stuff. You know how when you pack, you spend hours doing it. Do you actually sit down to take note of your work? And it's like you haven't done a freaking thing.
Mhm.
That, yeah, that's where I'm at now.
My day was crazy too.
Mm.
Just regular work nonsense. And then my
Hey,
power went out. We had like a storm in my neighborhood, so my power went out for like 2 hours. It's still out, so that's my day.
okay. All right. Hey, Juan.
What's going on?
That's Cuzzo. And so I had a follow-up question. Oh, the follow-up question is for you, Miss Ash. Are you familiar with Project 2025? And if so, what are you what are your thoughts on it, and how much of it are you familiar with?
So I'm familiar on a surface level. I will say I haven't done like heavy research. However, I think the things that I do know about the project mostly comes from social media, which I think can be problematic. So I think for me, it's more so kind of like reading more about it and what's really happening or what's going to happen if it comes to fruition on my own accord, and not going off of like social media posts or like just folks saying whatever, but you're not really sure if that's the facts.
Right.
So I know there's a heavy, at least like on my social media platform, a lot of the conversation has been people are not for it. And so from what I've heard, I would agree from the post, but again, I will have to do deeper research to see like what I agree with, what I don't agree with. So far, reading a little bit today, there are some things that I can say. I'm like, okay, that's not a terrible idea. And some things I'm like, okay, absolutely not. So
Okay. All right. Have you read and you might have said this, I was reading the comments, so I apologize. Have you read it at all, or just hearsay?
bits and pieces, yeah, bits and pieces.
Okay. All right. Mira, hermano Manny. ¿Qué pasó? ¿Qué pasó? Yeah, on a little bit early. For these, we come on a little early to get it knocked out, and in case we go over. And plus, I know it's the end of the day for a lot of people, and some of this reading is a bit dry, to say the least. So I wasn't able to get the slide deck.
It still doesn't work.
No, I'll have to figure out how to actually go and pull it into a PowerPoint.
You know what? Let me see. I'm gonna see if I can add it from my end. So I put it in Drive. I saved it as a PowerPoint. When I was saving it, I told her I'm saving it as PP with the end of it. And I hope you ain't laugh at the name. Put PP for PowerPoint.
I got it. Yeah. I'm picking up on what you're laying down, bro. I got you. I got you. The show.
Huh.
And so I'll say a couple of things that I've been talking to people about while you're trying to figure that out, as it pertains to VP Harris. There's been a lot of talking points that I've heard, and one of the major talking points is, she's been there for 3+ years and she hasn't done anything yet. Yada yada yada. What makes you think that she's going to do something in the future? So I don't know which way y'all are leaning, voting. You don't even have to actually expose that if you don't want to. But if you do feel so inclined to say who you might be voting for, who you might be leaning towards, can you tell us why, or tell us who, and then just tell us why?
These questions for me?
Sure.
Okay. So for me, I know for sure, hands down, I'm voting for Kamala as far as the president in the presidential election, and it's based on not so much like I'm just so like rallying around her, and I feel like I 100% support all the things that she has done in her current administration as vice president, especially around ceasefire, and so there's a bit of things I'm conflicted when it comes to her. At the same time, though, I absolutely do believe that Trump is not a president that I would want to see running this country again. Even though that there are bits and pieces of people saying that he's done this and that, and during his last administration, when he was president. But at the same time, I think that Trump is just not a viable candidate, in my personal opinion, just based on his past, based on his criminal history, based on a lot of things that are very public and people are aware of. And so for me, it's really just honestly solely based on the fact that I just do not want to see Trump in the Oval Office again. Not so much because I'm such a huge Kamala Harris supporter.
Okay. So is it a fear-based vote?
I mean, I guess you can say, to be honest, yeah. I'm not gonna sit here. I mean, I think the country is so many things that's going on that needs to be fixed, and I don't think one person or one president can necessarily fix all the things. At the same time, I don't feel that Donald Trump is for the country or the future I want to see, especially for my kids, my future kids, my kids now. I don't think that he is a viable candidate. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Deuce, where you at with it so far?
I mean, let's not forget my boy went to Puerto Rico, man, when they had that hurricane come through. You remember he was throwing toilet paper at the folks, right?
Yeah.
Zing, zing,
Like,
zing. Let's not
Get
forget
this.
my porn star and first lady when she went down to the southern border. She had a jacket on. I can't remember what it said on the back, but like
It was pretty.
it was derogatory
Yeah, it was
for
inappropriate.
right. But those are like personal gripes, right? Every president has something.
Mhm.
I mean,
Sure.
Biden's out here grabbing cheeks
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
and blaming it on old manism.
yeah.
Sure.
So, but I think the big thing, man, Trump's his policies, man.
Mhm.
Like what we're reading now, that re-election is going to be scary because let's not forget his first time. This dude wasn't ready. He thought he was going to lose.
Right.
I went to sleep thinking I was going to wake up and Hillary, the robot, was going to win. Right? She didn't.
Right.
She didn't. And Trump, he wasn't ready.
Mhm.
Now the man is prepared. So
Mhm.
once again, we said it before. Economically, Trump did some things, but some of the promises he said, because me and G, we talked about the last time he's supposed to bring a factory to Ohio.
Mhm.
That ain't paying out.
Mhm.
That ain't paying out. So
No.
I think if a unprepared Trump was volatile,
Mhm. Yeah, they're destructive.
it's like the final boss.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's the final boss. So
Okay.
yeah, I think to your point though, it would be a fear-based one because we don't know a lot about Kamala.
Mhm.
I mean, when we were in Cali, she was out
Yeah.
there. She's the silver cuffs in a lot of us. I mean, not me and him, but our brothers, our sisters out there.
Yeah. And
Okay, no, sorry.
no, don't give me one quick second, Ash. So my cousin asked, "Who is this chocolate queen? Her skin is beautiful." She just
Oh, I didn't even see that one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
yeah, absolutely. So at one point before we started reading this document, I was somewhat on the fence, and we talked about it a little bit because of the economics that usually happens when Republicans are in POTUS. But what I told somebody this morning, and I was laying in the bed last night, and it hit me in the head, is the actual title of this document, and the title is. Let me go back because I don't want to paraphrase it. I want to make sure that it is it's read properly. It's Mandate for Leadership, 2025 Mandate for Leadership, the conservative promise.
Yeah.
A conservative promise, not President Trump's promise.
No.
So regardless of who they would have occupying that seat, this is the agenda that they would be trying to push forward. At least this branch of what I would consider fringe extreme conservatives.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, I wouldn't be able to cast my vote towards anyone in the conservative party because it's dangerous. It's dangerous for America, unfortunately. So that's why I have pushed towards VP Harris for my vote. You know, and plus I know what former President Trump's game plan is going to be going into any debate or going into any rally or anything of that nature. He does the same thing every time, which is he's not talking about actual policy. It's more ad hominems more than anything. Zoe, what's going on? It's ad hominems, personal attacks, insults, very sophomoric jargon that he's pushing out with a lot of lies, right? So he's not talking about how to progress America forward. Even in some of the clips that I've heard, when people have called him on the phone and they've asked or they've said, "Hey, I have adult children, and right now a part of what I am making my bring home, I have to redo my budget and send it to them because they can't afford housing." And he said, "So what are you going to do in order to try and help fix that situation?" And his answer essentially was odd, and I thought about it, but he was just like, "Well, you know, the Keystone Pipeline, blah blah blah, oil. We're going to drill, baby, drill." I was like, "That what is that?"
That doesn't fix housing.
It does not. That's not the answer to fixing the housing issue. So with that being known and with that being said, I took that as it was, and I was like, this guy doesn't have a plan at all. And leadership that has no plans is chaos because they're supposed to be on.
I got a question. Do you think that Trump's losing his edge too? So I've seen some interviews. If you think back to the first election for Trump, right? Dude was sharp. He was with it. He destroyed professional Republican candidates. Professionals. He destroyed them all. Witty, sharp. I hear some of his comments. I've heard excerpts. I haven't heard all the Elon Musk interview. I think it was like 2 hours long. And Elon is a terrible interviewer, bro.
Agreed.
Brilliant, terrible interview. So I've heard some like excerpts, and Elon will rarely ask a question. And Trump doesn't answer the question, to your point. Whereas, because I looked at some interviews from before, either he answered or he intelligently parlayed to another point. There was a smooth transition. He's parlaying into another point without the smooth transition part. So it makes me wonder if age and that the spirit of that diet is catching up.
It might be. I think what's happened more so is that we've begun to pick up on the game and the tactic. And so it's become a commonplace thing, and so there's no more shock and awe and entertainment behind it. So we can anticipate what he's going to do, how he's going to say, and which way he's going to pivot.
Yeah,
because if you understand behaviors and if you understand how people conduct themselves, you know when they're going to pivot. You know when they're going to try and kind of muddy up the conversation. And watching him over the past 8 years at this point, we get what he's doing. So I don't think it's that he's losing his edge so much. I think he naturally he is because he's getting older. However, I think it's just that we've gotten used to the gimmick. The con is like you can't continue to trick me with this three card shuffle that you're playing, because I know that there's actually a fourth card that you got tucked somewhere, and I'm just waiting for it to come out. I'm not going to pick anything. So that's just my take on it at this point. So how do you want to do this? You want me to present the slide first and then do the reading behind it, or I can't remember. I've been getting ready to go to St. Louis.
Can you see the slides?
Yeah, I got them. I can see them.
Okay,
they are
cool.
They are.
All right. So so how I did it, right? The stated condition. It's a summary of what they say the current condition is, and I think for the most part from my readings before, it's the current condition is roughly accurate. I would say. When they start to add their interpretation in it, it's a little. So that first part is what they say the current condition is. Then the recommended adjustments are like the bold parts in the project 2025. So the intent for it was to help us focus on those points.
Sure.
There's some other stuff in the actual document, background stuff, but some points are minutia, but for some points are crucial.
Right.
And I didn't get a chance to go back and highlight which ones were what. So we can either do the deck or we can bounce back and forth. I'm
Yeah.
open to you.
Absolutely. So let's put up the first talking points. And this is from pages 345 to 346 for those of you all who want to know exactly where we are. So 345 to 346 is protect parental rights in policy. And this is what they're stating. The document highlights concerns regarding the erosion of parental rights in education, particularly through policies that allow schools to withhold information from parents about their children's activities, especially concerning gender identity. The current administration is criticized for supporting regulations that could compel schools to keep secrets from parents, such as child's decision to undergo a social or medical gender transition without parental consent. There is a significant concern about the increasing influence of radical gender ideology in schools, which is seen as undermining parental authority and negatively impacting children. The recommended adjustments, according to the document, again, continuing on page 345 to 346, the First Amendment, the first recommended adjustment is to federal laws. The new administration should work with Congress to amend the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, and the Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment to grant parents a private right of action. This change would empower parents to seek injunctive relief against educational institutions that violate their rights. Legislation prioritization. The administration should prioritize legislation that advances parental rights, reviewing and supporting bills like the Parents' Bill of Rights and amendments to the Constitution relating to parental rights. State level integration. Man, I'm drinking an energy tea and I haven't properly eaten today, and it is kicking my ass. Goodness gracious.
I feel you.
Holy cow. Anyway, so if I start going and going and going, you're going to have to be like, hey, pause, man. But state level integration. Ensure that federal actions complement existing state level parent bills of rights. This includes reviewing and harmonizing federal initiatives with those already implemented in states like Georgia, Florida, and Arizona. Prohibition of secretive school policies. The new administration should take a firm stance against any school policies that enable educators to keep secrets from parents, particularly about a child's gender identity decision. Federal laws should explicitly prohibit such practices. Check the next slide. Continued for recommended adjustments. Model state legislation. Encourage state lawmakers to adopt provisions similar to those recommended for federal schools, ensuring that no public education employee can address a student by name or pronoun that does not match their biological sex without written parental consent. School choice. The administration should promote school choice as a means to empower parents to decide the best educational path for their children, thereby reinforcing their primary role in their children's education. I don't disagree with much of that. However, there's much to be debated in that. And I'll tell you why in a second. And as I look through the slide deck and I peer back over at the actual document, let me pull this part up also, because I don't want to miss this. There's another highlighted part where it's prioritizing legislation, advancing such rights. Make sure that we're still in the same area. And it's saying that the current congressional actions should be carefully reviewed to make sure they complement the state parents' bills of rights, such as those passed in Georgia, Florida, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Oklahoma, Virginia, and Arizona. As documented by writers such as Abigail, I don't know who she is, but I'm going to have to look her up. Abigail Sherrill and others, the American Society of Plastic Surgeons documented a fourfold increase in the number of biological girls seeking gender surgery between 2016 and 2017. Larger increases were found in the UK, which I don't really care about, from 2009 to 2019 and 2017 to 2018. These statistics and other points to a social contagion in which minor children, especially girls, are attempting to make life-altering decisions using puberty blockers and other hormone treatments and even surgeries to remove or alter vital body parts. Heritage Foundation research finds that providing easier access to such treatments and surgeries without parental involvement does not reduce the suicidality, I don't even know if that's a word, of these young people and may even increase suicide rates. All right,
That's
so go ahead.
that's shocking to me because from like that small window where we had transgenders come into the military, and for what I see out just walking around the world, right? Now I walk around the world. I walk around, Richmond, figuratively speaking. I see a lot of male to female transition. I've seen just a few female to male transition. So I wonder if the numbers are even higher for little boys.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. I see what you mean. And so the question that comes to my mind when we're teetering on this as becoming legislation passed by the Senate is, first off, why are they so concerned? And what I mean by that is why is it becoming, especially for a group that believes that government should have a smaller role in everyday life, right? Why is this such why has this become a talking point to the point to where you're involving removing funds from what either parents are accepting or parents might somewhat disagree with? I don't understand why, instead of allowing the parents and the schools to figure this issue out first, they're directly involving the federal government with oversight, essentially, or not oversight, but with what's a good word for it? Influence to the states, right? Because they're wanting to influence the states to adopt the same legislation that the federal government is pushing for this.
Let me make sure I'm catching what you put down. You're trying to highlight the point of you're asking why is the federal government concerned with this specific segment about schools acknowledging the students'
privacy,
preferred gender when the parents may or may not know. So you're saying it should just be handled on a local level?
I think it should be handled at a local level, starting with the parents, the children, and the schools. I do think that it would be dangerous if a school administration knows that a child wants to undergo surgery and they push forward without informing the parent. Right? I think that becomes a dangerous border, because the parents, if that child was doing something ill, the parent would know. So if there's concern about it, the parents need to be informed. They may not know the full extent of it, but they need to be informed so that they can actually begin to influence what their child is thinking or feeling or going through, right? Because the influence should happen in the house before it takes hold in these social media streets, which are wild. So I think it should be handled that way first, and the federal government pull back some. I don't think directly employing the federal government to try and quote unquote fix this issue is necessary.
I disagree, but I'm gonna let you. So I'm gonna get the power forward for this.
I feel like personally it's two sides for me. So on one end, I think the concern comes from, because you're saying, or folks are saying that, it should start at home, and like that's when that conversation or that kind of issue should be handled. But I think that there is statistics and data to show that a lot of children who are going through that, I guess, particular kind of gender affirming, trying to, I guess, feeling like they don't match their gender or they don't match the biological sex that was proclaimed at their birth. And so there's a lot of, I guess, disconnect and a lot of actually harm and violence that has happened in families because children have decided to, not agree with the biological sex that was given, or that was discovered when they was born. And so I will say that does happen. That is happening. Children being harmed, children being abused. Parents, like all families and parents, are not healthy, and there are some toxic situations where children even fear for their life if they decide to go through with, not wanting to be called he or her or whatever. Now, where the line gets crossed for me is when you do start talking about surgery and medical, I guess, transformations. I feel like that is something that should be held off until they're a legal adult, because at that point, you're an adult legally. You can do what you want regardless of what your parents feel about it, right? So I don't agree that schools should have some type of, I guess, superiority over the family or the home when it comes to that. Like, those are, like, this is their bodies. This is a whole, it's different than I want to be referred to as he, she, them, whatever. When you start talking about altering their, like, body parts, then that's a whole other spectrum that I don't believe that schools should be involved with or should have higher superiority than their parents.
Okay.
Also, I don't feel like the government, I'm not in a space where the government is like, oh, just trying to help everybody and they're trying to do the right thing. Like, I feel like there's another thing to this. I don't feel like the federal government is just like, oh, we want to support, I guess in this case, like, transgender or LGBT children. I think it's something else, and it is connected to the money. So for me, it's a little mixed. I don't know. It's not as black and white for me.
Okay. But what you got, Deuce?
Well, I had to go and grab some fruit snacks so I can ponder on this, right? I have two trains of thoughts about it, right? One, man, it's hard for me to say I'm for something in Project 2025, but we're saying objective. This part I'm for. If the kid wants to be called they, they, whatever pronoun they want to use, the parents should be aware, right? Because that household should support or do whatever they need to do for that kid, right? So I don't think it's fair for the kid, for little Johnny, to go to school to be called Joanne, and then back home got to be called Johnny.
Okay.
I'm saying that the school shouldn't hide that from the parents, because, like you said, if little Ray acting up, they gonna let you know. But if little Ray want to be Renice, I hope that's not a girl name. That's a hideous name.
I don't know where you got it from. That was, you pulled that out loud.
That's why I'm not a rapper. So yeah. So I don't think that's a good thing. But here's what I'm thinking about. This is a societal shift. This is a change in the times, right? At some point, we're gonna have, it could be Harris, the first Gen X president. Eventually, we're gonna get into the millennials. So if we say no to this, is it just postponing the inevitable?
I don't think it's postponing the inevitable. Sure, societies do change over time.
Yeah.
However, and with those changes, we see different norms.
Yeah.
I think the danger in the transgender movement is the extreme part of it, which is the part that's epistolized essentially, and the part where it becomes, no, this is normal and you're going to have to accept it. Well, I don't accept it the way you're trying to define these things. I don't accept that. And although, yep, we're going to be the generation of yesteryear very soon, if we don't set standards or maintain standards, then we devolve into chaos over time. Right? So it's perfectly fine if a person feels a way about themselves or they want to be identified as something. But what's not okay is saying if a person goes through a transformation, that we now consider that person a biological, whatever they transitioned into. That's the issue that I have. It's again, if a person considers themselves something, by all means, define yourself. I'm not here to try to stop that. But what I'm going to push back on rather is saying, well, I transitioned from this to that, and now you have to identify me as the biological this. Well, that goes against science.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Stick with the science, and I'm also with this fact we can't put all this on teachers.
Right.
Oh, absolutely not.
Keep it boy, girl, male, female, right? And if the kid has an issue, route that to the people that are trained to handle that, the therapists, not your school teacher.
Yeah, and right now there's a segment of therapists that are actually they're troubling, to say the least, because they're promoting this idea and pushing this idea on people who would normally say, well, that's not really how I feel or where I want to go.
Yeah.
But the seeds get planted through therapy, and as well as in a session of trust, that especially with younger minds, that they begin to concede to what the therapist is telling them, because they're supposed to be the experts on this. So if that expert is telling me, well, maybe I'm experiencing this because, yeah, I might be that, I think that's dangerous. And there is, unfortunately, a segment of therapists who are doing that to younger people. And so that's why I also say that it should be handled in the house. There is information that the schools should pass over to the parents.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be, we shouldn't jump to the federal level with this as soon as we possibly can.
I guess that's where we're different. I think that the federal guidelines should be male, female. Right?
Okay.
Because you go, what's a high school here?
John Marshall.
Is everything here named after former presidents?
I mean, it's Virginia.
You in Virginia, bruh?
I mean, yo, it's like insane.
What you expect, my man?
I was coming from VA Beach and I seen Mary's Williams, Mary and William together. So, what was my point? Okay, so if you go to John Marshall,
I went to Huguenot, so we use that.
Okay, if you go to Huguenot,
I went, yeah.
Is that like a Marvel superhero?
No.
Huguenot. Okay, if you went to Huguenot, and I'm going to John Marshall, you play basketball. If we don't have a federal standard, and to your point, to keep it between the schools and the parents, your school says boy, girl. My school is more aggressive.
Okay.
And they allow me to be Cartesia.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm coming, I play basketball. You were the record holder, but I'm coming through 6'2", 225, dunking that thing, right? Is that, and then I say, hey, I identify as she.
Yeah, no. I feel like all of this though for me is just like gray. It's not, because to your point about biological sex, and this is just I do have folks that I know who are transgender, identify as transgender, whatever. Mostly male to female transition, right? I've never met anyone the opposite way.
I know two.
So I don't think it's necessarily them saying that my biology changed. I think it's so much their gender changed. So like saying I don't identify as a man or a boy, I identify as a woman. You know, gender and biology are not the same. How people may feel differently. People feel like gender and biology is connected. That's just what it is. I can understand how someone can feel that way. I think the muddy part is, what are we defining as womanhood? So it's not.
That's a tough one.
Or manhood, if we're doing the opposite.
There's not I haven't seen a national or world debate on what manhood is. I haven't heard anyone talk about it for one. Womanhood, though, there was a UK congressperson, a parliamentarian. I don't know what they call them.
Yeah, the parliament. They have a parliament.
So I guess parliamentarian. Yeah. I don't know what the proper term is. So they were on the radio, and somebody asked them, "What is your definition of womanhood?" His answer was whatever that person thinks it is.
That's such
That
oh
person, what do you mean? Like,
So the interviewer asked a politician,
mhm.
what do you think womanhood is? The politician's answer was whatever that person thinks it is.
that's interesting.
Yeah. So that's a good point you bring up. Womanhood is becoming
Hijacked.
undefined. Hijacked. Yeah.
It's not that it's becoming undefined. It's that it's becoming redefined. That there's a push to redefine what womanhood is,
Mhm.
in the spirit of trying to or hoping that it becomes a norm. That's why, in order to change it, it has to be ambiguous first. You've got to move the marker. You got to move the marker, make it obscure, horribly ambiguous, horribly vague, and then reshape it. And that's not fair. It's not fair to biological women, in my opinion. It's not. So it's again, it's a lot of this stuff we could go on and we might do a whole segment about it one day. Just have women on.
It's a juicy topic, man. But yeah, we are getting a bit off 2025.
Yeah, let me write that down. What is womanhood? We can do that one day.
Yeah, that's a interesting topic. I might have to do some research on that myself. I wonder if it's changed in the dictionary.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is an actual definition for it. Will, you know what? Hold on, give me 1 second. I'll look.
Beyonce got bootylicious in the dictionary.
Really?
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah.
Why is that in the dictionary?
She made a song about it.
It don't need to be a part of the English language. You could just be like a segment of it.
Listen, talking about 2025 is one thing, Project 2025, but talking against the Beehive.
I'm not talking
gets
against
you
the Beehive,
canceled.
but we can talk about that too because I have some controversial things. You know, I love Beyonce's music.
And so, doing a quick definition of womanhood, it simply says the state or condition of being a woman.
State or condition.
But what is that?
I would have loved to know the definition from 2010.
And I'll
State or condition?
Yeah, the state or condition. So I'll write that down.
So you have to look up what is a woman, because if it's you know, the condition of a woman, okay, what is a woman?
Let's see.
I'm gonna write that down. I'll write that down. We got to have a panel of women to discuss that. We'll have to, because that's
What you mean? It's America, man. Men can talk about women.
I'm not finna do it. But if you want to, I'll sit by and listen.
Because we're Americans, man. Are you saying that we as American men can't dictate to women? Because this is America. We own your body. We own your body.
Right.
America. This is America.
Look, all I'm saying is there are limitations to my opinions. There's limitations to my opinions, and I know where they don't belong. So I'll leave that at that. All right. So 346 to 347 advanced school choice policies. And the stated current condition covers the DC Opportunity Scholarship Program, which is a voucher program that provides scholarships to children from low-income families in Washington, D.C. to attend private schools of their choice. The program is currently capped at $20 million annually and only available to students whose family income is at or below 185% of the federal poverty line. The scholarship amounts range from $9,401 for students in kindergarten through 8th grade and $14,102 for high school students, with the average scholarship being around $10,000. This is significantly less than the per student funding amount in DC public schools, which was $22,856 in 2020. And in a second, I'll go back and talk about read what they're saying directly in here, because I'm looking at it exactly as I'm going through it. So the recommended adjustments expand eligibility. Congress should broaden eligibility criteria to include all students, regardless of income or background, and increase the scholarship amounts to more closely match the funding levels of DC public schools. Promote parental choice. all families should be allowed to use their educational funding to choose the education providers that best suit their needs, whether public or private schools. Deregulate the program. Wow. Congress should remove the requirement for private schools participating in the program to administer the DC Public Schools assessment and allow these schools to control their administration's processes autonomously. Ah,
Hold on. Okay. Before you, is that to continue? We'll go back one.
yeah.
Okay. So point 2, the last stanza says, choose education providers that best suit their needs, whether public or private. But then the next one says,
Yeah.
a private one remove you from this pool
Mhm.
so you can control who comes through your doors.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there is no choice in it.
Yeah.
There's no real choice. And so to go back to the actual document, to read it just a little more in depth,
Mhm.
fairly fast, I'll go down a little bit. No, I'll read this paragraph real quick. No, I won't, because it's actually just reading what you said, what you put in the slide. Provide education choice for populations under the jurisdiction of Congress. The federal government oversees 3 school systems that Washington should transform into examples of quality learning environments for every child in those systems. Students attending schools in Washington, D.C., students in active duty military families, including students attending. What just happened? Oh, there you are. Students, including students attending schools operated by the U.S. Department of Defense, and students attending schools on tribal lands, which include schools under the Bureau of Indian Education. In each of these systems, federal lawmakers should allow every student the option of using an education savings account so that parents can select different education products and services to meet their child's needs. That is unfair already. Nearly 50,000 students attend public schools in the District of Columbia in the 2021 through 2022 school year. In 2022, fourth grade math students scored 11 points lower than fourth graders in 2019, which means district children lost an entire year of learning over the course of the pandemic. Eighth graders also lost an entire year of learning in math. Federal lawmakers should offer district students the opportunity to use education savings accounts. No, we didn't read this one yet.
Hmm.
A portion of a children's federal education spending should be deposited in a private spending account that parents can use to pay for personal tutors.
That's on the next slide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Personal tutors, education therapists, books, and curricular materials, private school tuition, transportation, more accounts modeled after the accounts in Arizona, Florida, West Virginia, and 7 other states. Now, what I will say to that point directly is the states that they just listed have some of the worst schooling systems in America. As if people don't know, there are more poorly educated red states than there are blue, right? And so I think what this aims to do is it continues to pull away from the resource and education, and it ties it to education. So if you're poor or middle class, you're only going to receive a certain amount of education at a specific quality. However, if you are above, if you're upper middle class to the rich, you're going to receive a specific type of education as well. And that does not do well for American citizens at large, because we have a bigger population in the middle to lower middle class, as well as working poor, than what we have at the top of those tiers. And to throw in a savings account where you can put monies into, right? You have these rich, it happens in college already. A lot of these rich kids are getting into schools not based off of their intellect, but based off of the amount of donation, the amount that their parents are able to donate to those schools. It's not because their child has achieved any intellectual milestones or has contributed to society to show that, oh my gosh, for your entire scholastic career, you maintain a 4.0 GPA starting in kindergarten all the way up through high. No, it's because, oh, you know what? My dad donated $5 million over the course of 2 years to this specific school. So I'm quote unquote legacy. I'm going to get in regardless. And I think this furthers that down to the high school, well, the grades that they mentioned, essentially from K through 12. It furthers that endeavor, unfortunately. So I don't agree with it. But to read the advanced school choice policies off the slide, recommended adjustments, expand eligibility. Congress should broaden eligibility criteria to. Oh wait, I read that. My bad. Again, I'm on this energy drink, and it's got me.
It's the next slide.
Yeah. It then took hold, and I'm ready to rock. I'm ready to rock. Washington D.C. public schools. Washington D.C. public schools students in D.C. have experienced significant learning losses. Right, and we just read that. Department of Defense schools. There is concern about the integration of controversial ideologies such as radical gender theory and critical race theory in these curriculum, which has sparked dissatisfaction among parents. Bureau of Indian Education schools. These schools are some of the lowest performing in the country, with a graduation rate significantly below the national average. And that's what all the other schools will end up falling into if you begin to quote unquote what could be considered price gouge this system. So but anyway, I've been talking at length because I am on this kick. Y'all go ahead.
I feel like personally, as far as the mental eligibility, I think that if they are saying, because if they're saying these scholarships or this funding has been mostly for low income families below 185%, I don't necessarily wholly disagree, because, for instance, a lot of, let's say, government funding for social services and government support for families, whether it's WIC, whether it's SNAP, whether it's whatever, right? Or even housing vouchers, like the government's or idea of what poverty is or what low income is not.
Keep talking. I can hear you, but give me 1 second. I got to go off camera, but I can still hear you.
I know that. It's not completely accurate. Like there's no middle class anymore. Like what we consider working class is like, it's not how they're defining it. So I feel like I'm not too against kind of shifting the eligibility. Maybe not so all, but
so raising the bar.
So for instance, like I don't know what exactly the income would be for that poverty line. Like I don't know exactly the numbers, but for instance, like families, I don't know how much would you say a family would need to take care of one child?
I remember I read this study that said in order to take care of a child from like 0 to 18, it ranges between $250,000 to $300,000.
And that's just like basic stuff.
Basic stuff. Okay. We're not talking about sports, extracurriculars, anything like that.
And people are still struggling to do that.
Yeah.
But if they're saying they're only supporting families who are like making $50K?
Yeah.
Like that is not like, yes, those folks need support, but there's a large amount of families who are making maybe a decent living, but are honestly still living below like the poverty line, but it's not defined as that by the government. And so they're not having access to this funding. That's all I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying allow the rich to get in on this.
Yeah.
I'm saying kind of adjust or rethink how we look at poverty in this country and really be clear on who's really struggling to, raise their families, especially with everything costing $1,000.
Everything is sky high.
Everything is sky high, and also salaries are not matching housing costs. Salaries are not matching what you need to live a basic life, not even luxurious, not even going on vacations, just so you can pay your bills, put food on your table. I just think that we need to rethink the living wage.
Yeah, there's to your point. This is, I guess, from Dave Ramsey's site. Take this with a grain of salt. The average American household spends about $6,081 on monthly expenses. Right?
That times 12 is almost $70K a year.
So with $70K in the household now, let's say two parents and a child.
That's not enough.
to be So
But that's not considered poor to the government though. That's my
they
thing.
wouldn't be eligible for that. So you know what? I agree with you.
You know,
I think they could ease it up a little bit.
a
To
little,
include, they got to put more
185%
money
is
into
crazy.
that program
Yeah.
because there's gonna be more participants in there. I do think you need to ease it up more. I think there's several things we need to do to Hall. But this one specific point, make the applicant pool larger. But you gotta, I don't know, it's tough. You gotta be smart with it. So get another thing here.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. You're talking about redefining what poor is.
So that probably came out wrong. So what I mean is, if the government is saying, okay, we're considering low income this, but we all know people who make, I guess just go with the 70K a year with two folks in the family with a child, that's still not, you're still not able to cover all the basics in the society or the economy that we're in now. Like, that's honestly low income if we're talking about being able to actually have a lifestyle where you're paying your bills, you're putting food on the table, you can get the stuff you need for your children, you have healthcare, etc. Like, it's still not enough. So it's kind of like, where do those folks like get support if they're not considered poor enough or low income enough? Because you have to understand, like I said, the salaries for like a lot of these jobs, unless you have making 6 figures per parent, which a lot of people, the average person, the average family, they'll be lucky to have both parents to make 6 figures, right? That's just not the norm for everybody. So it's kind of like, we need to redefine, like, what are we considering low income? I wouldn't say poor necessarily, but I would definitely say in the standards of the government and what they're defining as low income, like that threshold, like, needs to adjust a bit, because like folks may not be like almost homeless and, you know, but they're still struggling to make ends meet, and they have a bank job that would have made them, that would have covered their whole lifestyle like 20 years ago, and they would have lived a great life with another person in the house and with a child or two. Now, one person making 70K on their own with no children is still like it's a pudge.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just my take on that.
Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down now. I got you. So with the adjustment, should it be lower than the 70K mile marker?
She's saying it should be. Why is it frozen? It has some camera issues. She's saying it should be higher.
Okay, I got you. Okay. Similar to California, to where if you're making, I think it's like 125 and under, you can qualify for food stamps.
Yeah, because you're in California. Like, let's be for real. Like, 125 in Virginia may sound like, oh, you're making big bucks, but in Cali, that ain't nothing.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down. So let me read what they're saying for the minutia aspect of it. Because we're reading Project 2025, and we're going through the educational piece of it and how they're lifting and shifting the goalposts and essentially making it harder for the average American citizen to get a quality education for the children. Right, and that's my summary on what we're reading right now. And so Heritage Foundation research, which I don't trust at this point, found that if I can't trust these guys. They doing some slippery stuff. Found that if even 10% of the students eligible for accounts under such a proposal transferred from an assigned school to an educational savings account, the change for the sending district would be 0.1% of that school district's K through 12 budget. I'm trying to figure out how they came up with that, but okay. Even in heavily impacted districts with a large number of students receiving impact aid, the budgetary effect would be less than 2%. Yet, these children would then have the chance to receive a customized education that meets their unique needs, as with the state's ESA programs. Families who are homeschooling are distinct in statute from families who use an ESA to customize an education at home. Furthermore, research from the Claremont Institution used documents provided by a whistleblower demonstrating how educators at Department of Defense schools around the world are using radical gender theory and critical, reread that, critical race theory in their lessons, which is not true. That's an unfounded statement. That's an
Yeah.
unfounded statement. Definitively, that's unfounded. There's nothing to prove that that's what's happening at all. There might be individuals who have their personal opinions and interject things every now and again, but as a standard of education for K through 12, that is not a thing. But this instructional material discards biology in favor of political indoctrination and applies critical race theory's core tenets, advocating for more racial discrimination. Such ideas are highly unpopular among parents, according to nationally representative surveys, but they don't they don't quantify that, which is odd since they make that statement. And the course material attempts to indoctrinate students with radical ideas about race and the ambiguous concept of gender. Finally, schools on tribal lands and under the auspices of the Bureau of Indian. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say something about that one point about parents not liking critical race theory. It makes me think back to when I was a kid, right? My mom is an angel, but you should. Can we cuss on here? Are we allowed to cuss?
We grown as a motherfucker, bro.
My mom used to get my ass as a kid, right? And what I used to hate as a kid was when my dad would come home, and then my mom would give him a summary of what I did. Mom, that was between me and you. I disobeyed you. He wasn't here. He was at work. Why are you telling him?
Because they're a unit.
They're a unit. I didn't like that though, because I knew if I already got whipped, he wasn't going to whip me. But now I knew that he knew, right? Or vice versa. If I disobeyed my dad, why are you telling mom? I don't like that. I say that to say, when we're talking about parents who don't like critical race theory, let's be clear about this, right? I'm not one of those people that say, "Oh, like it." A portion don't like it because they say it makes them look bad.
Yeah.
I would say
history is bad.
The history of America is bad. Bro, I'm not saying you were responsible. You don't even alive like I wasn't alive. But we got to understand where we came from. And for whatever reason, a portion of them feel attacked. Like I used to feel attacked when my mom dry snitched on me, you know? And she ain't never heard of RICO charges. So
I got kicked out of my U.S. government history class in high school.
That doesn't shock me.
Yeah, the teacher put me out, and I had to retake it in high school, had to retake it in summer school, which was fine because it was a football coach who knew me from playing basketball. So I just got high and went to sleep. But I'm saying the reason why I brought that up is because the debate or the exchange that me and my teacher had gotten into was relevant to exactly what you're saying. So he began to talk about slavery, right? And very disparaging remarks. I can't remember what he said verbatim, but I raised my hand and I told him, I said, hey, that's not true about America and slavery. That's not how that happened, essentially. And he was like, well, what do you know? You know, I'm the teacher last time I checked. I was like, yeah, but you're not teaching the right thing. And so what he didn't know is that my mom had been in education. My mom was an educator. She was a school teacher. And so she used to force us essentially to read an hour for 30 minutes of TV. And we learned.
He has this big vocabulary. He likes to flex on people all the time.
I do not.
Yeah, you use it as a weapon. No.
Not at all. But that was, you know, those were my formative years. And so we learned a lot of actual American history as it pertained to how slavery went down. But from his aspect of trying to teach it, it felt like a direct attack or a continuation of, this is where you come from. That's why you won't be as good as. And so
here's my thing. I didn't mean to cut you off, bro. But
you ahead.
Think about it from the other person's point of view. You're telling me that my entire history is just slavery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's what was being taught. And to make matters worse, I went to when I was in high school, I went through a system called the desegregation program in St. Louis. And it's literally what it sounds like. It was desegregating, trying to desegregate St. Louis, the St. Louis schooling system.
What year?
So I graduated in 98.
So in 98, you're still trying to desegregate?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And so I was bussed out to predominantly white areas of the county. And the majority of the students that I went to school with were white. The black students made up a small population. And so when the teachers or when that specific teacher began to teach that, sure, all of the white kids began to look at me because of the impression that he was trying to influence about my history. And when I spoke out against him directly and I started educating him on black history and slavery, he couldn't take it. And he was like, well, then you need to get out of my class. And I directly cussed him out. And then I walked out. However, I'm saying that just to say, to put things back in a bit, just some perspective. When teaching American history to our white brothers and sisters, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. One of the things that I've often heard, which is actually true, is that in some of the postcards where you see a black American hanging from a tree that they would use, take pictures, postcards, and send out. Well, some of their grandparents are implicated in those postcards, right? And even when it comes down to the photos of the Desegregation Act in Little Rock or wherever else around the country, and you had the National Guard escorting kids to school. Yeah, absolutely, kids to school, and you see the hatred from the white population. Some of their parents are being implicated in those photos. And so to point back and be like, this is actually what happened. Of course, it's going to put them at a crossroads because they see the inhumane treatment against other American citizens that they were promoting. So, it hurts my feelings to say that, the Little Rock Nine, absolutely. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Because it hurts my feelings that you're telling me about myself. Well, I wouldn't have to tell you about yourself or your history if you weren't acting like that in the first place.
Yeah, I got a question off that point. I want to ask both of y'all, which is very close to Richmond. So in Richmond, they have the street called Monument Avenue, right? They used to have it's called Monument Avenue because it was a monument to all the Confederate greats, right? Because Richmond was the first
capital of the Confederacy.
One of.
But they were like one of the main.
I don't know why I make up this, like, because Montgomery was one too. I don't. Why am I?
Battle which is the racist, more racist.
I know. That's wow. That's a competitive nature in me. No, Alabama is more. But
that was Central High, Little Rock.
Huh?
So my cousin was saying it was at Central High in Little Rock. He in Little Rock. When we were kids, we actually went and visited that site during a family reunion.
Oh, dang. Well, okay. So probably at that point too. So Monument Avenue used to have monuments of Confederate heroes. We're talking about Stonewall Jackson's, Robert E. Lee. No one talking about right now.
Grant.
And Grant was Union.
He was,
He won of it.
Oh no! So they wouldn't have had them.
Only the Confederate greats.
All Confederate.
Not the Union.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
Oh, okay. They were making it plain. Okay, I thought they would at least try to trick us, right? No, okay, but go ahead. My bad.
Grant, I think Sherman was one.
I thought it was, okay, all right. No mix and match, none of that. Okay, I'm got it.
So I want to ask you guys that, like, here and some other spots during like the BLM movement, they removed a lot of those statues, right? And we're talking about history. Do you think, in hindsight, that was a good idea or bad idea?
Absolutely. And I say that quickly because Richmond's history is very steep in Civil War
Mhm.
and in the slave trade. Like this is one of the major ports
Yeah.
where Africans were sold here and distributed wherever they were distributed. Right.
Mhm.
Also, we have a museum here called the Valentine Museum. Mr. Valentine was actually he was the main artist, sculptor who created those monuments. So, like, Richmond is deeply entrenched in that history, and folks have had to live it, like, see that every day of their lives and be reminded. Now, even though I say that, I also I wouldn't say to remove it completely, you put it in a museum. But I don't need to see it while I'm driving to work. I don't need to be reminded that at some odd hundreds of years ago, I wouldn't be able to be down this road because I would have been snatched up and sold to somebody plantation. I pay taxes here, you know what I'm saying? We're not in that time no more. I don't need to be reminded in that way. If I choose to want to be reminded of that history, I can go to a museum. That's just simple for me. I don't think it necessarily needs to be displayed as this like honorable like thing or structure in a city that we're trying to move forward.
Is there a fear that we might forget?
We can never forget. It's literally in our DNA, at least for us.
Right, but it's not in our history books anymore.
Well, that's the problem. I think that's what the Project 2025 is trying to erase that history, and I think that we have to keep it in the books. We all know books was one of the major things that they used against us to keep us uneducated, and they're trying to do it all over again by watering down everything. And that is a major destructive thing to our community, especially our kids who already struggle to read in the first place. So they already don't read books, but then when they do read a book, it's a lie.
Right.
What are we doing?
Or it's the book they want. And excellent point. And just a caveat, I'm going to use a caveat, right? This is the military. I'm sorry. To your cousin James here, Calvin, he talked about Robert E. Lee federal holiday. So I looked it up. I don't know if it was ever a federal holiday, but I know Florida's Congress approved it. And guess what day Robert E. Lee holiday is on?
MLK.
Martin Luther King Day.
Of course.
And guess what state celebrated still?
Mississippi.
Florida. And name the third. Because Mississippi is also
Mississippi, Alabama, and probably Georgia.
Yeah, there was a camera. Yep. Not Georgia.
Alabama.
Florida, Alabama, Mississippi. Virginia stopped celebrating a while ago. But yeah, those three. The trifecta.
Yeah. And I this past weekend, I had a show that I was performing in up in Northern Kentucky. And so during my downtime, I decided to go to Cincinnati. And I didn't know that they had an Underground Railroad museum. And I went to it. And when I tell you, my throat was in my chest. It was hard to fight back tears reading all that information and seeing the conditions displayed. And so I'm saying that just to say this: if they're willing to put our information in a museum and keep it out of the books, the same standard should be held across the board. First off, the Confederacy at this point in American history was a treasonous act, and they lost. They lost. There should be no mention of honor to anybody who fought in that war. In any capacity, they lost. And I said it once and I'll say it again. If the rationale is, well, this is just our heritage, well, then Germany should have hundreds of statues of Gestapos and Reichs and Hitlers. They should have tons of them.
I'm glad you made that point. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Origins.
No.
So, so she
that
was based on this book. I can't remember who the author is, but the book basically connects Crow to the Holocaust and then also to capitalism in India.
Yeah.
And so she went over to Germany for her studies. She had discovered that the same structure and laws and how they formed and shaped like the Jim Crow laws was the inspiration for Hitler's propaganda and his structure. Yeah, so they got that from us. They got that from us.
Wow.
Which is why they were allowed after World War II to come over to America and work in our government.
Yeah.
That connection. Well, America, we as in America played a part in that.
Absolutely. Y'all freezing up on me. But absolutely. And I've educated, because I know the book you're talking about, but I've also educated, because if you got a question, come up. Hold up. I'll put the link in for you. I've educated people on that. Why? Like Hitler had a life-size portrait of Henry Ford behind his desk because he liked the way he worked. He understood his concept.
Let's see what's going on with audio here.
Say again.
Now I'm gonna fix this. I'm gonna fix this connection issue.
All right, but yeah, so there were multiple different ideas that were taken from America to enact the violence that was committed against other groups. It was studied by them. It didn't come out of thin air. We were the inspiration for that stuff, unfortunately. Man, y'all going in and out. Y'all having a storm? Oh man, I don't know what's going on with that connection, but it's rough. It's rough. Egg, you said you had a question. What was? There you go. There you go. I was wondering when you was gonna hop on.
I was trying to get there. What's up, my dude?
You got it. You got it.
Man, actually, I'm down here in Dallas doing some training, believe it or not. Then I got to come back tomorrow, then shoot right back to the loop for the reunion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but my question totally off the subject, but pertaining to the subject, why are all these black folks coming out on Kamala Harris, bro? They're like eating her ass alive.
Well, I think part of it has to do with what they're trying to persuade us not to do, which is identity politics. And so the drive or the want to identify with a certain class and how they are promoting their politics is being latched on by a lot of us who are not in that same financial society.
Mm-hmm.
So to sound like we assimilate or we're the same as, we're going to promote your politics so we can gain some type of favor.
I asked my girlfriend about this because she's big into politics. She said that Kamala was, I guess, a prosecutor in California.
DA, district attorney.
Yeah. And she was saying that she was for putting black folks away. Now she wants to say she's black. She needs our vote. I'm like, don't do stupid shit to go to jail.
Well, and that's part of it. That's part of it.
That's like a lot of it, huh?
That's 9/10 of it, right? If you don't put yourself, a lot of the times, if you're not putting yourself in that situation and you ain't living that life, you never have to worry about getting prosecuted.
True.
That's not negating foolish cops who will purposely pull us over and try and shake us down, or these corrupt judges who will do the same thing, right? Because we do have flaws in our system. But if she wanted to speak intelligent about the situation, she would actually go and read what VP Harris actually did as the DA, right? She didn't simply just lock people up. She also started different programs to actually rehabilitate people.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's her point. Like my girl is a pro Kamala Harris. Like that's her girl, and that's what she was saying. She was like, it's like a no win for her. She put people in jail, but then she made programs so they won't go to jail.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's like, my girl was like, my girl was like, it's a lose-lose for her. because they're saying that her people on her side are saying you're not doing enough to put their asses away.
Sure. Because make no mistake, the Democratic Party, they have a lot of them invest in private prisons. So they make money off of people going to jail.
Right. Right.
They invested in private prisons, so they were making a lot of money for people being locked up as long as those people didn't look like them. So
touche.
Yeah. So in order to keep that business going, they had to provide a service, and they were providing that service until VP Harris stepped in and she began to touch people's pockets. That's when she began to become a bit of an outlier in the Democratic Party, because she began to correct a lot of the ills that were happening in California.
And let me ask you this, since last time you talked, as I told you, I've seen so many black people for Trump. You still say you ain't seen it yet, right?
Well, as I've stayed on TikTok, I've come across a lot of people, and I've gotten into, I'm not going to say debates, because I don't debate with, and I don't mean to sound pompous about this, but I'm going to say it the way it has to be said. But I don't debate with intellectual inferiors, right? I just inform them, especially on those specific topics, because I'm sure that there are other topics that I'm their intellectual inferior on.
Right.
So when talking about a lot of this stuff, I correct them, especially black men that are outwardly pushing false narratives against VP Harris.
Man, I'm telling you, I've never seen. This is just scrolling. Instagram, TikTok. There are a lot of black people for Trump. Yeah. And again, I respect everybody's vote. I don't care who you vote for. It's your right. But when we last time you talked, you were like, "Nah, cuz I haven't seen that." I'm like, "Shit, you better look again."
Right.
Like Trump is going to get some of the black vote. And it's crazy because when you look back, all over fucking a stimulus check that we got 4 years ago, simple-minded.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the problem. Again, using their talking points to sound smart. Sounding smart or sounding intelligent is completely different than actually being that.
My girl said, yeah, he gave us checks, but she said, guess what? I owed in taxes, so I gave it back to their ass.
You gave every bit of it back.
And to her point, she's like, so what the fuck did you really get?
Yeah. We didn't get anything for free.
Man, I tried to get her to come on here because you'll love talking to her. She on another level with this.
Where's she at?
She might be at home, or one of her daughters got class or something, but you'll see. I'm gonna get her on here. You'll see.
By all means.
You will definitely see. You're gonna be like, she's like up there with you on this politics shit. Like she own it.
And we have to be. We have to be. And too many tricks. That's why I keep telling people I'm an independent. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican.
That's right.
And at the end of the day, I'm more of a constitutionalist than what I am an independent. So when you go, the reason why I look at history so much and I read history a lot is because it exposes the games that they're still trying to play in our political system, especially when it comes to framing our political system in the spirit of capitalism. That's what's happening. And capitalism has to have a loser. It has to have a loser. Capitalism won't work unless there's someone being exploited financially in order for someone else to gain.
And that's another thing she said, all this shit boil back down to money.
It does. In order to get anything changed in America, you have to begin to change the pockets of people.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we actually get change. All right. When I spoke at a Black Lives Matter rally some years ago, right, there was a lot of outcry, there was a lot of frustration, there was a lot of intentional, what they thought was intentional unrest and angst. However, the thing that people were missing directly was going after these unions and suing their insurance companies and going after them, because that's where their pockets would be affected. Going after their pockets. If people would take more time, because cops get sued all the time. Like I think in New York, it reached several $100 million as far as what the state had to pay out, because cops had, no, it wasn't several hundred. It was tens of millions, more than $10 million right? In the course of a few, like not even a full year, that the state had to be out after adjudicating different cases because of wrongful cop interactions.
Yes. Speaking of, did you see that cop got off from killing that woman in Texas?
I did not see that.
You know, the one who went to her apartment when she had the pot in her hand?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that? Man,
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. Her daddy actually lives down here, down where I work at.
Yeah, but that's another area where we have to be smarter and better in. When appointing these judges, we have to take a direct approach.
That was the federal judge.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. But we've got to do better by who's getting appointed as a federal judge and even as a local judge, because those are the ones. These are the guys, and these are the men and women who are going to prosecute these. Put a sentence to these cases or not. And when we have the wrong leadership in place, who would rather play the political lines, they're going to place their party leader or someone who aligns with their party in that seat. That's what happens. So we've got to be better at the local level of understanding what's at stake for people that are getting placed into positions, and we don't. Unfortunately,
because 5 people out of 10 don't care.
Right. Or they don't know. They're just unfortunately ignorant.
But and then people only start caring until it starts affecting them.
Right. Because an emergency on my end does not constitute one on yours, and that's the false narrative of a lot of American citizens. You know, as long as it's off my property, you're gonna be fine. I'm gonna watch somebody rob your house across the street, and I ain't gonna do nothing because I'm fine in mine, not knowing that there's a group of robbers. Some are going across the street to your neighbor's house, and then some are coming through your back door.
Yeah, so, and again, we only care when it affects us.
Exactly. Now there's outcry. If you take CRT in consideration, everything was fine in education until CRT at the collegiate level, people got wind of it. And now, oh my gosh, don't teach CRT because it's making my children feel a specific way. And I don't want my kids to feel bad. I don't care if it's happening to the students of color, right? They'll be okay. They'll get over it. But you're making my child feel bad about American history. And I can't have that because now I've got some explaining to do, and there's accountability in the household that has to be.
Boy. Man, I hope Tandria gets on here. Man.
Friend, cuz I'm still amazed at that.
I'm not. She a good one. She a good one, man. Like a damn good one.
That's what's up. I'm happy for you.
I told you, 22 years in education.
Oh wow.
Sorority, bachelor's, master's, and a doctorate in English.
That's what's happening. Happening.
Me and Jesus been talking.
Okay. All right. Let me read a little bit more of Project 2025. I think Coleman's internet went out. That's why, or Deuce's internet went out. That's why he had to drop. But
where's he from?
He's from Alabama, but he's stationed out in Virginia right now.
Oh, okay, he's a soldier. Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, let me read a little bit more of this because this topic, talking about the education process in Project 2025, it goes down so many different tangents of how insidious this strategy is.
That's why I was trying to get her on here because she's a school teacher, and this is the part that she's on it. She knows it.
Yeah, because it does more harm to the average American, regardless of your race, right? It does more harm to us as a country than what it does good. It simply.
Let me try to call her and get her on here.
All right. So I'm gonna continue to read. Hopefully Deuce is able to hop back on. I was enjoying that conversation. All right, so I'll pick it back up. Furthermore, research from the Claremont Institution used documents provided by a whistleblower. I will reread this because this is where we actually lost track. Demonstrating how educators at Department of Defense schools around the world are using radical gender theory and critical race theory in their lessons. This instructional material discards biology in favor of political indoctrination and applies critical race theory's core tenets advocating for more racial discrimination. Such ideas are highly unpopular among parents. According to a nationally representative surveys, and the course material attempts to indoctrinate students with radical ideas about race and the ambiguous concept of gender. Finally, schools on tribal lands under the auspices of the Bureau of Indian Education are among the worst performing public schools in the country, and I wonder why. Not really, I was being sarcastic. Research from Representative Burgess Owens' office reports that the graduation rate for BIE students is 53%, lower than the average for Native American students in public schools around the country, and nearly 30 percentage points lower than the national average for all students. In 2015, Arizona lawmakers expanded the state's education savings account program to include children living in tribal lands, and by 2021, nearly 400 Native American children were using the accounts. So it's another stab at our Native brothers and sisters to assimilate into American culture, and a continuation of erasure of their history. It's another form of indoctrination that I don't agree with. Federal officials should design a federal education savings account option for all children attending BIE schools. The next administration should make the K-12 systems under federal jurisdiction examples of quality learning opportunities and education freedom. Washington should convert some of the lowest performing public school systems in the country into areas defined by choices, creating rigorous learning options for all children and from all backgrounds, income levels, and ethnicities. Expand education choice through portability portability of existing federal funds. Setting education policy on the right track learning long-term would require sunsetting the U.S. Department of Education altogether. Doing so would not result in fewer resources and less assistance for children with special needs from lower income families. Rather, closing the federal behemoth would better target existing taxpayer resources already set aside for the students by shifting oversight responsibilities to federal and state agencies that have more expertise in helping these populations. The Individuals with Disabilities Act is the federal law governing taxpayer spending on K-12 students with special needs. The law stipulates that students have a right to a free and appropriate education, and 95% of the children with special needs attend assigned public schools. The education is not always appropriate, however. Special education is fraught with legal battles. Some argue that the education of children with special needs is the most litigated area of K-12 education. Who I don't know who those some are, but there's no quantifying in this. Thus, despite a nearly 50-year-old federal law that sees regular revision and reauthorization and approximately $13.5 billion per year in federal taxpayer spending, parents still struggle to establish intervention plans for their students with public school district officials regarding the physical and educational requirements for their children with special needs. State-level education options often exclusively serve children with special needs for these very reasons. Florida, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Mississippi, South Carolina, and North Carolina, to name a few states, all have education savings accounts or K-12 private school scholarship options for children with special needs. I don't think that it's in the best interest of us to use those states as a standard. Again, the states mentioned, the majority of the states mentioned, I'll rephrase that, are at the lowest educational level, K-12, in the country. That should not be the metrics we go by. It's unheard of to try and move us all to a similar system. Federal lawmakers should move IDEA oversight and implementation to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Resources. Officials should then consider revising IDEA to require that a child's portion of the federal taxpayer spending under the law be made available to families so parents can choose how and where a child learns. IDEA already allows families to choose a private school under certain conditions, but federal officials should update the laws so that families can use their child's IDEA spending for textbooks, education, therapies, personal tutors, and other learning expenses, similar to the way in which parents use education savings accounts in states such as Arizona and Florida. These micro-education savings accounts would give the families of children with special needs approximately $1,800 per child to help meet a child's unique learning needs. Members of Congress and the White House should consider a similar update to Title I of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. Title I is the largest portion of the federal taxpayer spending under this federal education law, and the section provides additional taxpayer resources to schools or groups of schools in lower income areas. Federal taxpayers committed $16.3 billion to Title I in FY 2019, spending that is dedicated to students in low income areas of the U.S. per student. This spending amounts to more than $1,400 for a child in a large city and approximately $13 for a student in a remote rural area. Research finds, though, that this enormous investment has not provided positive results for children in need. The achievement gap between children from the highest and lowest income deciles has not improved over the past 50 years. And recent dismal outcomes on the National Assessment of Education Progress show declines for all students, with math scores registering declines for the most time in history. Initially, the responsibilities for administering and overseeing Title I should be moved to HHS, along with IDEA. Students attending schools that receive Title I spending should also have access to microeducation savings accounts that allow families to choose how and where their children learn according to their needs. Parents should be allowed to use their child's Title I resources to help pay for private learning options, including tutoring services and curricular materials. Over a 10-year period, the federal spending should be phased out, and states should assume decision-making control over how to provide a quality education to children from low-income families. This is a lot. Additional school choice options. House Republicans include school choice in their Commitment to America agenda. Though actions by state lawmakers are essential, and any federal policies should be strictly designed so they do not conflict with state activities, Congress should consider school choice legislation such as the Education Choice of Children Act. This bill would create a federal scholarship tax credit that would incentivize donors to contribute to nonprofit scholarships granting organizations. Eligible families could then use the funding from SGOs for their children's education expenses, including private school tuition, tutoring, and instructional materials. I will pick this back up next week when Deuce hops back on, and we will continue and we'll further our reading and understanding. Yeah, wow, indeed, Maya. Wow, indeed. I don't like the way that they're trying to frame this. I really don't like the way they're trying to frame this. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't. I just don't like it. It's not appropriate for our country where we are. I do agree that our educational system does need a bit of an overhaul as far as the resources are concerned, the funding and how it's actually being spent. But I do not agree with the way they're pushing this out. So with that being said, I won't have final thoughts tonight because, well, this party going to continue throughout the weekend. We're about to have a family reunion and we're going to be live on Friday. And it's yet to be seen if we'll be live throughout, but we'll be live for a short portion of our family reunion Friday. And then I plan on enjoying my family during the family reunion. I'm going to wait. I might hop back on in a little bit. I'll talk to our favorite cousin, Egg One, to see if his lady wants to hop on. If so, I'll jump back on so we can continue to discuss what we got going on. Hey, what's going on, Joe? Good to see you, man. We got to get together. I owe you an interview that I definitely want to talk to you, about your experience in Japan. I appreciate you hopping on and listening, my man. I don't know how much you were able to actually catch, but on Wednesdays, I'm reading from Project 2025 directly and giving my input on what's going on. If you would like to hop on and give your thoughts, you know, you're always welcome. You're always welcome, bro. But yeah, that's what we're doing. I'm about to actually hop off unless you want to hop on and continue. Oh, you had 30 minutes right on. That's good. I appreciate that. So I definitely appreciate the support. And I'd like to hear what you think about this, especially as a man that's in Japan right now and watching America from the outside. If it's in a state of erosion, or if we're moving or transitioning into a state of building. We kind of spoke about where we were as far as former President Trump and VP Harris. And I'd like to see if your thoughts have changed. I'll tell you what, we can hop on and talk to us about that real quick if you want, if you got time. I know you might be, what time is it? So it's 10:14 a.m. on Thursday morning. Okay, bet. Next week, perfect. We'll be looking forward to it. So on Wednesdays, it'll be 8:30 a.m. your time, and I know you'll probably be heading to work, if not already at work. Thursday morning for you, Wednesday evening for us. So, hey, I appreciate everybody hopping on and listening and tuning in and giving your comments and your feedback and your support. And if there's anything else that y'all want to talk about, make sure you hit us up at the web, at the email below. And if you feel so inclined, go ahead and hit that Cash App also, so we can continue to contribute to the podcast. And don't forget the actual Family Bloodline channel. The actual Family Bloodline channel is right here, where we play music from new artists. We highlight some of our cohorts in this business, in the podcast and music industries. And we play a large part of our podcast in English, as well as some of my partners who are doing their podcast in Spanish. So we got all flavors from all across the world, all walks, just to let everybody know that this isn't just an us thing, it's an us thing, as an inclusive, progressive movement. As always, it's Jay Glass, the Movement family. Thank y'all for hanging out with me. God bless and good night.